Distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for inviting us to explain our project to you here in Berlin. My name is Magan Bristow. I am the project manager of the Iraq Emergency Heritage Management Training Scheme. Now you can see that's a bit of a mouthful, so we just go for Iraq scheme. As has already been mentioned many times, these are the type of images that we all were seeing in 2015. The British Museum was being asked by people from all over the world what it is that we could do to help. And Jonathan Tubb, the keeper of the Middle East department, came up with an idea and went to the British government and asked them if they would fund the Iraq scheme. The British government approved it, and we have 5 years of funding from 2015 to 2020. And our project has actually become the pilot project for the Cultural Protection Fund, which now funds over £30 million of projects for cultural protection. So what is the Iraq scheme? The Iraq scheme is a partnership between the British Museum and the State Board of Antiquities and Heritage of Iraq, which we are very, very grateful for that partnership and their ongoing support to us. The premise of the scheme is to train 50 Iraqi archaeologists who are all employees of the State Board of Antiquities and Heritage in the emergency restoration, conservation, preservation of sites that have been damaged and disrupted in Iraq. What makes it maybe a little different from other training schemes is that we don't just bring them to the UK, but then we also go back with them to Iraq and train the participants on active, fully fledged excavations in Iraq. So the Iraq scheme in the UK. For the first half of the training, we bring the Iraqi archaeologists between 6 to 8 in each group to the UK between 2 to 3 months. Mostly theoretical training at the British Museum with experts in their field. This includes expertise in areas such as object and site conservation, photogrammetry, photography, databases, illustration, geophysical remote sensing, and the ethics of reconstruction. Is it actually ethical to reconstruct some sites? And we have very active debates when it comes to that topic. A fundamental part of the scheme is that we provide the latest technology, high-spec laptops, cameras that we train them in the UK, but also, as you see here, latest surveying equipment of multi-stations. And at the end of the scheme, all of the equipment is the property of the State Board of the Antiquities and Heritage. As I mentioned, the project is in 2 parts, the second of which is in Iraq, and we have 2 field sites, one in Dabandi Rania in Iraqi Kurdistan and one in the south in Tello. First, I'll discuss Dabandi Rania, which both of these sites are not just training sites, but they're important research projects in their own right. The Dabandi Rania archaeological project, which is where I flew from this morning, is a collection of 3 multi-period sites. As you can see here, Kalakgar Daband, Usawaska, and Murad Rasu on Lake Dokan. And there's evidence in the region's occupation from the Parthian, Sasanian, and Assyrian periods. The aim of the work at Dabandi Rania is to explore the ancient fortifications at the strategic point controlling a major route from northern Mesopotamia to Iran, with a focus on the occupations of the first millennium BC. There have been excellent finds over the last 3 seasons, and as I said, they're in the field currently right now, including Parthian coins and figurines and Hellenistic statues. Most importantly, these sites are for the training of the participants, and as you can see, 2 of our participants here who had just finished doing some illustration training on site. Now we move to southern Iraq, near Basra, the site of Tello, which is an incredibly important site of the ancient Sumerian city of Gusu, one of the earliest known cities from the 3rd millennium BC. It was excavated during the late 19th and early 20th centuries, but then hadn't been touched for over 80 years. During the last 3 seasons, excavations in the temple complex have uncovered incredible finds, including more than 15 inscribed in situ cones in the temple walls. I'm sure the season will be just as fruitful. They've just gone out last week, so we'll see what happens in the coming 2 months when they're out there. All the finds from both of these sites remain in Iraq, and with the majority of the finds from Tello being taken to Baghdad at the end of every season. In addition to the Tello excavations, as part of the training of the participants, we received additional funding from the British government to conserve the bridge of Gusu, which is the world's oldest known bridge. This will be a great training opportunity for many of the participants in conservation and reconstruction. We've had 5 groups of participants so far from nearly all regions of Iraq, and we have 2 more groups, and we hope to have a participant from every region. One of the other aims is that the 50 participants will then create a network and stay in touch with each other, but we've already had a lot of successes so far, and one of the participants has been made the director of Mosul Museum. Another is leading the assessment of Nimrud, another has been made the director of Al-Anbar province, and many other fantastic achievements. The 5th, 4th and 5th groups were groups of female archaeologists, the 4th being 8 female archaeologists from the Mosul region, which, as we've discussed, is very poignant at this point. The participants themselves are just training right now in the field. Some of them had never been on an excavation before, so it's a fantastic experience for them. Many of them will go back to working on the work which they were doing prior to that, which was documenting the destruction of the old city of Mosul and working as part of the Nimrud rescue team. We know that the Iraq scheme is just a drop in the ocean of what is needed, but I hope that it's a step in the right direction, and it is a project that we're incredibly proud of. Thank you.
Questions? Is there any direct question? How many people are you going to train through the 5 years? 50, that's all.
So we've got 2 more groups, yeah.
Yes, please.
Jumana, Heidelberg University. I would like to ask if you have any plans to train Syrian archaeologists like this project without being in Syria, because now you are in Iraq, you can do something there. Yeah. But training Syrian archaeologists without being active in Syria, is this possible? Thank you very much.
It's a fantastic question. In 2015, when Jonathan Tubb had the idea for this project, he wanted to train in Iraq and Syria, and obviously there were limitations politically at that point. We very much hope when the Iraq scheme funding comes to an end in 2020 that it will be continued, and that is something that we might look to do in the future if the political situation was as it could be.
Yes, one more.
My name is Carsten Pelder-Müller. I'm from the Norwegian Institute for Cultural Heritage Research. I was wondering, perhaps you mentioned it and then my attention failed, but do you have any social dimension in your training scheme? Any local community, I'm thinking
Any
of.
what, sorry?
Local community part or component.
Sorry, did you say local community?
Yes.
Well, both of the excavations, I think I understand, is that we obviously, the excavations are in north and southern Iraq, and we include workmen from those sites, but also we try to do a lot of community engagement as well. There is a long-term plan that when we've finished work on the bridge at Gusu, there will be a visitor centre that we would like to build there as well, which would engage the local community, bring in schools and like that. I hope that answers your question.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Megan.